All right, climate heads. Going through the work of the late, great Dr. John Latham and his work specifically on marine cloud brightening. So you can see I'm annotating rather profusely. So, anywho, I really didn't leave off there. By the way, I'm still working. I'm still working through it, but this is very, very, very interesting work to me because essentially what marine cloud brightening means is that we're making up for the loss in albedo, the reflectivity of the Earth's surface. We're losing albedo because of a combination of things. One, lack of cloud cover, particulate matter in cloud cover over the oceans, and secondly, the loss of ice. And ice is wonderfully reflective. If you're a skier or a snowbird in any way, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The reflectivity is high. In essence, I'm going to flip you over now to some of the videos associated with this. I've been having some fun, of course. So, in essence, what started this was me essentially looking at some NASA videos, in particular of the Earth from orbit and the cloud cover over much of the Earth, and being supremely interested in the cloud cover, particularly over our oceans, because our oceans absorb over 90% of the solar radiation that the Earth absorbs. That's why the oceans are heating up. A major contributor to the rise in sea level is, believe it or not, thermal expansion, which means essentially as the ocean gets hotter, it expands. It's that simple. And ironically, because we've been trying to control pollution from this sludge that these large tankers that run the ocean routes feed upon, we've eliminated the use of this fuel oil, which is the most disgusting looking sludge you have ever seen. But ships run off it. Or they have, and it's one of the fuels they can utilize. However, it also outputs a ton of sulfur into the atmosphere. And interestingly enough, though, that sulfur actually contributed to the reflectivity of clouds over the ocean. So eliminating that fuel oil and basically supplanting it with something that is more efficient and doesn't put out as much pollution, ironically, took away some of the cloud cover that we had over the oceans that was insulating the oceans from further heating due to our loss, again, of albedo, of reflectivity. Albedo is good for the Earth. It's cooling. That's why more cooling breeds more cooling, hence ice ages. And on the other hand, more heating breeds more heating, for the exact same reason. Less cloud cover, more solar radiation absorbed. Anyway, back to record heats and marine cloud brightening. What in the hell does that mean? So here's the thing that John Latham got his bones in, okay? Latham made his bones in atmospheric research in Manchester, specifically about how clouds actually form form the vapors that then form things like rainfall, how nucleation in clouds works. Nucleation meaning the little codices and corners and of the matter that lies in the clouds. It basically enables vapors to accumulate into droplets that then can accumulate into drops that then accumulate into rain. Okay. It's fascinating stuff. I'm not going to take you too much into that today because we need to play a little bit and not get into this really rigid and raw science. But I will say this about marine cloud brightening. It's well thought out. Here's the thing. If you are a climate advocate like I am, all right, I'm clicking through some videos right now to watch other things, but if you are a climate advocate like I am, you must be able to don the armor and assume the tools and the weapons necessary to confront ignorance, all right? And I often hear this response more than any other from those who are attempting to intelligently contradict the idea of something like this geoengineering, in particular marine cloud brightening, or anything like it. The argument goes thus from the uninformed. Well, isn't that geoengineering? And geoengineering is scary. Yes, it is. We've already done it. Humanity has dumped, get ready for this, because this is a pretty accurate figure. I've done my research. 2,500 gigatons of CO2 into the atmosphere. Now, this is in addition to all the methane that we're dumping in right now as well. All right, methane dumping is accelerating, but we've already geoengineered Earth. All right, the question is, are we going to allow the results of our geoengineering to destroy the delicate balance that we have, or are we going to attempt to do some intelligent counter geoengineering? Because the only way to slow this down right now, all right, we're not eliminating fossil fuel consumption, by the way. Our leaders won't do it. The only way to control the temperature until our leaders actually stop taking the money and looking the other way for fossil fuels, all right? This includes natural gas, by the way. Natural gas is not our friend either. It emits tons of methane by the extraction of it, all right? Anyway, back to it. Until they get a grip, all right, and actually begin acting on the behalf of our children and grandchildren, all right, we have to do something. Otherwise, we're going to lose the ice. And when we lose the ice, it's game over. So back to marine cloud brightening. Marine cloud brightening is promising. I believe they have these vessels they call Flettner vessels, all right? But in essence, what they do is they take a small amount of seawater, all right? And here's the funny thing. Latham worked with this guy named, I'm not joking, his name, I gotta turn this back around because you're not gonna believe it. The guy's name he worked with was Salter. Okay, I think his name is Stephen Salter. I'm going from memory here, but his work with Stephen Salter involves taking seawater, spraying it into clouds. All right, and there's a butter zone concentration of particulate matter, specifically these sodium chloride crystals, all right? And it's in a very tiny scale. The scale is I'm really talking about it's 10 nanometer cube. In a 10 nanometer cube, there's a butter zone number of particulates needed to create the proper amount of reflectivity without causing cavitation, which then causes nucleation, which then causes rainfall, because that's actually the enemy of cloud brightening. We don't want that. What we want the clouds to do is be reflective, highly reflective. Why? Because they'll bounce that solar radiation back out into space instead of allowing it to heat the ocean. All right? Heating the ocean much more is really a bad idea because it's already working itself, this heated ocean is working itself underneath the ice flows, particularly the ice flows of the Western Antarctic. All right? And with tidal flow, warm water working itself underneath those ice flows in the West Antarctic means they're melting from underneath, all right? So we need to stop this seawater heating, okay? And marine cloud brightening is a way to do it, but we need to start the experiments. We need to actually start getting involved, sending fleets out, doing tests, all right? Yes, it's geoengineering, but as I said before, we have already done the geoengineering, all right? Now we need to try to find a way to make up for it until we can wean ourselves of the fossil fuel pipe dream, okay? That is that we can continue using them forever and it won't harm us. It'll just do us some minor climatological effects, all right? Pretty soon, the climatological effects will not be minor, they will be major, all right? They won't just be a storm here or there in an isolated region that you don't want to think about and can't, right? Or that isn't reported at all in the case of like the nation of Pakistan, which is suffering all this ice melt from the Himalayas. You don't hear hide nor hair about these things, most of them, all right? And when you do, you hear excuses from the local politicians that say, oh, well, that wasn't the worst storm we've ever had. We had a worse storm in X year, all right? Which is true and not true, all right? For every degree of global warming we have, and we're at about 1.5 now, there's 7% more moisture in the atmosphere. That moisture falls somewhere. It either falls in the ocean or it falls on the land, all right? Either one. And wherever it falls, there is a result of that. When a hurricane or a storm forms, those pull the moisture and concentrate it, okay? In essence, they make those storms wetter and they give them more force. Not necessarily higher winds, but more force in terms of Newton power, in terms of dumping moisture and redistributing it. It accelerates that effect, and thus it accelerates the power of it. What kind of power am I talking about accelerating? Well, let me give you some scale. We're talking megatons more power, all right? Like many thousands of nuclear bombs more power, but it comes in the form of water. So, hence, thus, and therefore, we would like to, all right, limit the amount of heating. That's what this is all about, because we have seen the result of this kind of heating. In microcosm, at least, in these storms. Secondly, we've seen the result of it in terms of, oh, excuse me, this is beautiful. But yes, we have seen the result of it in terms of sea level rise, but sea level rise is one of those sort of slow creepers, you know. The storms are a highlight film, but the slow creeper, ooh, oh boy. Oh, isn't this gorgeous? So I'm taking a look at the methane concentrations. Oh my goodness, that is extraordinary. Get a look. Anyhow, yeah, sorry for the distraction. I will go back to what I was speaking of before. In essence, we've melted a lot of ice already, so our reflectivity is down. 49,000 gigatons of ice we've already melted, almost 50,000 gigatons. That's enough to submerge the entire U.S. in over 20 feet of ice. That's how many gigatons of ice we've melted so far, humanity. That's a lot. And it's a lot of reflectivity. I'll give you another fun fact. Take a look at this one. This is a NASA animation. We have melted enough ice to cover the entire moon 5 feet thick in ice. That's how much ice we have melted. Okay? So, we need some help right now. I'm reading through Marine Cloud Brightening. I see no reason whatsoever why we should not get on the horse and begin testing this at the very least. All right? You know, a quote fleet of 3 ships. I see a future where there are hundreds of ships nationally, right? Internationally, more so. Okay, and we go and we seed the clouds at various parts of the year, with enough not to bring precipitation or rain, but enough to reflect the solar radiation and mitigate the damage that this extra methane and CO2 are going to do us. Okay, because we can't refreeze the poles. That's a funny. It's not funny. We just can't. So anywho, I'm gonna turn the camera back on myself for a minute and just say this to you. I say these things with all love and concern. Okay, there is no blame. We have been led down a path. All right, a path that really wasn't all of our choosing, and it took form in the 1800s, believe it or not. And those, quote, industrialists, quote, robber barons, whatever you want to call them, they colluded, they suppressed other forms of energy usage and distribution. They made the globe rely on fossil fuels to their benefit, and they even built cities around it. Okay, thus that many of the cities that we now live in, at least in America, for certain, Rockefeller made sure to have his guys go in and influence city planning, thus that you can't get anywhere without the use of a fossil fuel powered vehicle. And that was all to his benefit, not to yours, not to mine. All right, never mind the poison. I'm going to load my pockets with cash. All right. And I'm sorry, I'm not even being cynical here. It's just the truth. Not only that, but Standard Oil, Firestone, and I believe it was Goodyear, colluded together to destroy all the light rail systems in all the major cities in the United States. Why did they want them destroyed? Because they wanted to replace them with fossil fuel powered buses that ran on Firestone tires or Goodyear tires, or I think it was Firestone. It was Firestone, Standard Oil, and General Motors, I think. Sorry, I said Firestone and Goodyear tires, didn't I? Allow me to retract that and... All right, strike that. Reverse it. But anyway, love you, Wonka. Back to it. So anyway, I love you. It's not our fault that we're in this mess, but we are in it. So we can do something about it. We certainly can. Continue to research. Don't take my word for it. Don't take these people, these other people's word for it either, though. Okay, because most of the stuff out there is advertisements and lying. Okay, they're greenwashing their continued consumption. All right, the fact is we really don't need to consume this much. We can conserve rather easily, and the transition starts with us, with you and me, all right? And eventually, our leaders will listen, eventually, all right? So, good day to you. All the love in the world. Until next time.